Since 1954, this is Point of View, the world record-holding public affairs program produced locally at WDEF News 12.
Hi, I'm Mark West, and welcome to another edition of Point of View. Today we're going to be discussing the cost and impact of family fragmentation in Tennessee and across America. And to help us better understand this subject, we have as our guest Dr. Travis Ricketts, who's a professor at Bryan College and also the head of the Department of History and Government there. Welcome to our show,
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate
it. Well, let me first ask you, when we talk about family fragmentation, what do we mean by that, and what does that encompass?
Well, there was in the 1970s, there was a long, drawn-out, expensive debate in the White House as trying to define what a family was, and they didn't get anywhere.
Huh.
And so I'm just going to refer back to thousands of years of recorded history. When we look at a family, it's usually been a mother and a father, and then a quiver of children.
Right.
And we're seeing the social repercussions of social change in the 1950s, 1960s, and then federal policy today.
Okay. So we talk about fragmentation, so obviously we're talking about the breakdown, perhaps, or the changing of the family. I saw a report that talked about the 1960s, some rates and so forth of families, and now the the 2010s and 15s. So talk a little bit about that. How have those rates changed of marriage between the 1960s and now?
Well, from our generation, Mark, we grew up and there was divorce prevalent, right?
Sure.
Even by the time we were young.
Right.
And that has continued, but it's not quite as bad for this generation coming up right now.
Okay.
They're hearkening back to, when we looked at the 60s, when we were in college, we called it shacking up, right?
Right.
And so it's not the divorce rate that is particularly devastating right now. It's that young Americans and Tennesseans aren't getting married in the first place.
Okay.
And Raj Shetty, an economist at Stanford, said, if men don't get married, they tend not to grow up. Okay.
Wow, that's could be a very applicable statement to today, couldn't it?
Right.
So, do you know what those statistics were, the 60s versus the presently?
I believe we have a slide for that.
Okay.
I don't recall that off the top of my head, but perhaps we can bring it up in a little bit.
Sure. Okay. Good deal. So, as we see this change in the percentage of people that were married in the 60s versus now, I think the number has dropped about 20% when I remember the slide. And so, how does that trickle out into our economy, so to speak? Does it have an impact?
It has a tremendous impact, and not just in our economy. It has a social impact, an educational impact, and certainly an economic impact. And you hear a lot about wealth inequality today.
Right.
I'm not so concerned about wealth inequality. I think that's a red herring. What I'm concerned about is wealth mobility. I teach a class called Wealth and Justice, and we're concerned about people having opportunity.
Right.
And children from a two-parent family have double the opportunity to see a rise in their standard of living versus those who come from a single-parent household.
You know, you raised that point. I think that's a very interesting point. In fact, when I was studying for this a few weeks ago, I came across I'm calling it the formula of success in life, and also a formula to poverty. I don't know if you can share a little bit about what that formula is, what it's made up of.
You know, I can, but before I do so, let me say, I don't want to be here casting stones.
Sure.
I don't want your viewers to think, well, Ricketts is there telling me I'm a heathen because I've gotten divorced.
Right.
We've all got problems.
Absolutely.
And even those of us who are in marriages struggle from time to time.
Absolutely.
And I would say it's by the grace of God that I'm married and I have a wonderful wife that puts up with me.
Absolutely.
In telling you this, I just want you and your viewers to know here are the hurdles that you face coming from this.
Absolutely.
So, can you rephrase the question?
Yeah, the question was, I read that there's a formula to success in life and avoiding poverty, versus there's another formula that if you don't follow this path, you're going to pretty much end up in poverty.
Gotcha. I was reading this book two summers ago, about this time. It was at a state spring football championship, a series of games happening. And these coaches, I was kind of sitting in the background, and coaches and their kids were coming around me, and they were giving them the pregame pep talk, and they were just sitting there.
Right.
And I was reading this book, and it said, statistics show that if you will graduate from high school, get married, get a job, and get married before you have children, you have only a 2% chance of being in poverty.
Wow.
If you get those things backwards, you have a 74% chance of being in poverty.
Wow.
So I couldn't stand it. I said, I can tell my college students this, but almost it's too late at that point.
Yeah.
It's these 8 to 12-year-old boys around me that need to know this. So I just started pulling aside coaches, and I started showing them these charts, and I said, you have these kids' ears.
Yeah.
Please get in their ears and start teaching them this now.
You know, that's something, until I read it recently, and you just shared it right now and reminded me, that's an unbelievable statistic when you think about that. If you want to avoid poverty, there's a 98% chance of avoiding poverty if you follow just those 3 steps. And those three steps, again, are basically graduate from high school, right? Get a job.
Right.
And wait till after you're married to have children.
Correct.
And that's a 98% chance of not going into poverty.
Right.
And the other way, if you do any one of those, or do those 3, you're going to have a 76% chance of being in poverty. That's something that our schools, I think, would do well to be screaming from the rooftops and putting them up on blackboards everywhere, because it's certainly a very interesting and informative percentage. Now, I was also doing a little research. We talk about the financial impact, and you already touched on the fact that, you know, there's so many more issues beyond financial that we need to talk about, and we could talk about, because there's the human impact, of course, and the emotional impact and relationship impact. But one thing that I noticed that some people don't realize is, in the state of Tennessee, there was a report that was recently issued that said the cost of family fragmentation in our state for 1 year is $757 million. And when you add all the states together across our country, and this report was 8 years old, it's $112 billion. Now, those are overwhelming numbers, but I'm curious if you have a sense on what enters into those numbers. What are we talking about when we're talking about $757 million because people are either A, divorcing, or B, they're remaining single parents?
Well, I mean, part of it's childcare, obviously, and then you have counseling services and legal fees.
Sure.
So there are some sectors of the economy that doesn't bother them a lot, honestly.
Right.
It bothers taxpayers probably.
Sure.
And if I was running for office, I'm not, but if I was running for office, I would say, you're losing this much of your tax dollars because of choices other people are making.
Yeah.
But honestly, I tend to focus and say, again, I believe that each of these individuals are created in God's image. Right. They're each inherently valuable. They have creative capacity and productive capacity about them, and I want to see them be able to flourish.
Sure.
So that's really what keeps me up at night more than having to pay taxes on it. Not that I like paying taxes.
Yeah. Well, you know, we have such little time to talk about this in this segment, but if someone is interested in finding out more about this or doing some further research or reading about it, what would you recommend they do?
The first book I came across is Home Economics, so I would recommend that you go on Amazon. You can get the Kindle version for $1, the paper version for $3.50.
Okay.
It's by Nick Schultz.
Okay.
If you want to search online, I would recommend the National Marriage Project out of the University of Virginia, turning out some really good stuff.
Yeah.
So those are 2 places to start.
Okay, well, thanks a lot. I appreciate that. And I know that you're teaching this particular book in your classes, are you not? How have students responded to that?
I have students make a forum post on it and respond to each other's post, and some of the things they write are profound. It's like, well, again, we live in a broken world, and I teach at Bryan College, which is a Christian college.
Right.
But I have students in my classrooms that I don't know how they make it other than the grace of God. But to seeing what they write on their post, they get it.
Right.
They've lived it. But now they're making plans not to continue the statistic going forward. So that's inspirational in a sense.
Sure, and of course they're going to college, but there's still some other parts of that formula. And it's getting a job, and of course, and then ultimately waiting to have children until after they're married. So those are 3 parts of that formula that we want to continue to drill in and make sure that our children, our young people of this day know that formula. But well, really, we appreciate you coming on board and talking to us about this, and look forward to maybe having you back sometime to talk further about this.
Thank you, Mark.
But now, as we continue with Point of View, next up we're going to be talking about a time for work and celebration in the Latino community. We'll be right back.
Na 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 I love you so. I love you. I love you. La 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 la. La 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 la.
We're here.
Yay!
It's a short drive from your neighborhood to your naturehood. To find a neighborhood park or green space near you, visit discovertheforest.org.
This is the story of a boy who is very sensitive to lights and sounds. So he built secret hiding places where nothing could get in. The boy didn't like looking people in the eye. It made him feel uncomfortable. One day, he found out he had something called autism. His family got him help, and slowly, he learned how to live with it better.
Early intervention can make a lifetime of difference. Learn the signs at autismspeaks.org.
Welcome back to Point of View. I'm Nayara Cancel. One community takes it upon themselves to make a week-long event, or actually multiple events for a week, in order to bring two communities together into one. Thank you so much to Christian Patiño from La Paz and also Gladys Piñera Lure from Chattanooga State Community College for being here. The Latino community celebrates the first week of May, not only for social reasons, but also for community impact reasons, correct?
Correct.
And so Gladys, tell us about the event that you help head up.
Okay, well, thanks, first of all, for the opportunity to promote our event. We have Latin Festival 2017 this year, and it's going to be Saturday, May 6th, from 11 to 3 in the Highland Park Commons. It's a very diverse activities. It's a family-free event. So it's like some sort of carnival and education and learning too. So
it's open completely free of charge to the entire community.
Yes, and let me clarify. So it's free for everybody. Everybody can attend, but we will have some activities like we have 19 food vendors. That part is not free because it's local restaurants, local entrepreneurs that are making money out of that. But the rest of activities, all of that is free.
And Christian, you also are having an event, Sangria on the Bluff this year.
Yes,
right?
we are, yes.
But in addition to Sangria on the Bluff, what are other events that week brings for the whole Chattanooga community?
Well, last year we started with Semana Latina, which was Latin Week. And basically it was to have events that highlight Latino culture to bring awareness not only to the greater Chattanooga community, but also to bring Latinos into those spaces so that they can have access and really thrive here in Chattanooga. The Semana Latina this year is from the 29th of April until the 5th of May. And we're excited because we have different organizations that are having different events at their institutions for the Latino community. For example, we have the Day of the Child with Creative Discovery Museum on Sunday. We also have an event at the Aquarium during that week. And if you want to check it out, it's at lapazchattanooga.org/Semana Latina. And we're having events at the zoo for families where they can come and see like Latin, South American animals in the exhibits. We're having the Lookouts game on the 3rd of May. We're having a book fiesta at East Lake. So
and
if
you're not jotting all these down, don't worry. We'll have them on our Facebook page. But let's go back just a little. These are a lot of events in 1 week. They're all for the entire community, not just the Latino community. Why are you doing this? Why is the Latino population coming together to put all these events together?
Well, let's talk about Latin Festival, for example. So it's our 3rd annual year that we're doing this, and the reason because we started with this, we were trying to raise some funding for access for Latino community. So basically the proceeds of this event will go 50% to the Latino scholars and 50% to the ESL program. So just to give you an idea, the impact that this has in our community, last year in 2016, we had 23 Latino scholars that were able to access post-secondary education in Chat State, and we had 75 ESL program participants too. So at the same time,
for those that don't know what ESL is,
yes, Okay.
Explain what that is.
Yes, so basically English as a second language is the stands for. So basically we assess the student, you know, if they need some help with the type of, I guess, immersion in the community, we just offer that services, and then we kind of help them to navigate the different pathways. So either a credential, either a technical training or academic training, depending.
What is the percentage of Latino students that go on to secondary education in the Chattanooga area?
Well, saying that's a difficult question to ask because I do not have the information. For example, I just came back from Washington, D.C., and I got the opportunity to talk to Giovanni Ragsdale from Southern, and I find out that just the Southern University have the 25%, and we are getting, we are increasing in our numbers as well. We're going to 8-9%, and in the other programs we have even a higher percentage. So we are an emerging institution, if you will. They are getting very close to becoming a Hispanic serving institution, which will give us many advantages.
Before I ask you, Christian, some questions, I have one more question for Chattanooga State. How many of those students that participate in this ESL program, so English as a Second Language program, go on to continue with other education, secondary education?
Well, that's what I was mentioning, the 23, then we have, and if you think, keep in mind that this is the third year. So we start awarding these
so it's a very young program.
Well, we just have 3 years in this, so probably I will have to have more data. But other thing about as far as impact, and I want to mention, is the collaboration that we have with all the organizations. So we have 29 Hispanic churches participating. We are working with the Hamilton County Department of Education. Of course, we're working with La Paz in several projects. So you're truly merging
the community,
yes,
for immigrant students or students of second language into the Latino, into the Chattanooga community.
I do believe that it's more than that, to be honest, because we are trying to create an integration, an educational tool that is fun for the community. In fact, we use this. This is the Passport to Latin American Challenge, and basically what it is, the people claim the passport, and they will start to go from 16 countries. So they will be touring 16 countries without leaving Chattanooga. And the beauty of this is not just the Latino community learning, it's the whole entire community learning that within the Latino community, we also have so many differences.
Christian, there are, I know you guys have Compañía and different programs within La Paz, but you guys have integrated all of these other events to be able to, kind of like Gladys said, emerge our communities and make sure that the Latino community within the Chattanooga community is actually a functioning community. Please tell me about that and why you guys are building all these projects.
Well, I think that's a great question, and thank you for asking that. With Semana Latina, the goal was to really have a diverse and rich Chattanooga, and that's what we partner with different institutions and organizations to create a week-long series of events that again highlight that Latino culture in that community. But it was also done so that the greater Chattanooga community could attend those events and also increase their exposure. As we increase exposure and we're exposed to different cultures and peoples, we can understand them better, we can relate to them better, and we can see that we have a lot more things that are similar, therefore grow stronger together.
What is the biggest issue within the Latino community, and how are these events helping solve this? We have less than a minute.
Yeah, I think these events are helping get people accustomed to be at different spaces in Chattanooga. So essentially it's saying no space is off limits for any population here in the city. So that's what I think is very important, and it brings everybody together to celebrate it. I think the biggest issue can be access to different either resources or institutions, but by partnering together we can break those barriers and create access for all.
Is that for adults and children?
Some of the events, yes, it depends. It can be for children or adults.
But the access issue?
The access issue, I mean, I think it starts with a parent. But again, it would trickle down to children.
Thank you so much. We could talk about this a lot longer, but thank you so much for coming in, Gladys and Christian. Please stay tuned as we talk a little bit about poetry.
So, same time next week?
Well, of course. Put away a few bucks, feel like $1 million. For free tips to help you save, go to Feed the Pig.
You make me wear my bike helmet. Taught me never to run with scissors. And to follow the swimming rules.
You tell me to stay away from drugs.
To always buckle my seatbelt.
So why do you keep a loaded gun in your drawer?
How safe is that?
You asked them to follow some safety rules. Now they're asking you. In fact, they're counting on you. Never let your gun get into the wrong hands. Remember, always lock it up. Visit ncpc.org.
I'm Nikki Nicholson, and welcome back to Point of View. April is National Poetry Month, and I felt it was only right to bring to you our special guest, Carla Elliott, who is a new member of the Mayor Council for the Disabled, an advocate and a voice and a wonderful poetess. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me, Nikki, and News 12 Point of View.
Awesome. Well, I know you have something that you would like to express, and I would love for you to express to the viewers what you have in your heart.
I would love to share with you a piece that I brought entitled, What Are You Going to Do? I'm very big on accountability. I will share this with you, and then we would talk some more about the blessings of being a disabled adult citizen in Chattanooga. Soon I will be done with the troubles of this world, with the troubles of this world, the troubles of this old world, from the great tribal warriors to the wailing women down by the riverside and in the cotton fields, to the tears that silently stream downward from the face of that man, your man, they pappy, as they embrace and squeeze. The silent screams that dwell within his heart, as he must live day by day by day, wondering how he can make it better. Onward to freedom riders, Harriet Tubman over the hills and through the hollow. We are going to freedom, children. Come on, children. Now what are you going to do? The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King endured many, many things while on this tedious journey, saying and believing we shall overcome. Lives lost and bodies tossed from the back of the bus to now driving the bus. What are you going to do? Sacrifices of lifetime and limb from him, them Monday, him, them Monday. Blood-stained banners flown high into the sky.
Where does this come from? I know it comes from a very, very special place. I can hear it in your voice, the strength of it. Where did this come from?
I think I've been a poetess since the beginning. But I began collecting my pieces in '07 when my father was diagnosed with lung cancer, and it was therapeutic for me.
So how do you use this as an advocate for the disabled?
I feel I use this as an advocate for my special warrior community every time that I step out of my door, because whether I'm on my feet or rolling in a wheelchair seat or on bedridden sheets, I am splendid and wonderfully made. Whether I'm saying I'm disabled or differently abled, it does not matter, because I am not made unable to function in the world today. I am a contributing member of society, and so are they. And this is why the Mayor's Council on Disability is such a blessing to our city, because it affords us the ability to express ourselves.
So this opens you up. This opens up a whole new avenue for the disabled, for people to look at and say, you know what? I'm a human being. You know, when I have feelings, I have thoughts. I'm a person just like
I'm more than just a cause.
Yes.
I'm more than something to fluff a resume or a portfolio.
Absolutely, absolutely. So do you think that you have rheumatoid arthritis?
Rheumatoid arthritis for 40 plus years.
You suffer with it.
I have.
You suffer with it.
I learned to live with it.
That's what I wanted to hear.
My mother challenged me as a child. She said, Carla, are you going to let arthritis beat you, or are you going to beat it? But what we learned was that there is no beating. It's learning how to live with.
How to live with.
Yes.
How to live with. Well, you are very talented and very gifted. Is there any events coming up that you would like to share?
We have, and I have a little cheat sheet here because, as you stated, I am a new member of the Mayor's Council. Our annual Americans with Disabilities Act celebration is the 27th, I apologize, celebration. It will be July the 26th at Miller Plaza Pavilion from 11 to 1. And we're going to have vendors and resources. Everyone, please come out. And we also want everyone, whether you're disabled or not, to attend the council meetings. They are held every first Monday of every month at 3:30 p.m. The Development Resource Center, 1250 Market Street, Chattanooga, Tennessee. Come out, let your voice and your soul be heard, because see, our city can't fix what we don't know about.
Absolutely. Is there anything that you would like to tell anyone that wants to do something in life and feels something may be holding them back to help them overcome or live with?
Tell fear that you howl at the moon, high-five the stars, and backhand the devil because Jesus said you could.
Because Jesus said you could.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I love it.
I'm 4 feet 11, 78 pounds of thunder on a fat day, and I make the ground rumble and the devil rumble.
You are absolutely amazing.
And I love you dearly.
Thank you, and I love you. And I love the fact that you're bringing this to the city of Chattanooga. So with that being said, I thank you for coming and sharing what's on your heart as a poetess in this city.
Thank you.
Well, you've won the election. Now what? That and more on the next Point of View.
Closed captioning provided by the following.
Funding for this program is brought to you by Barnett & Company, specializing in tax-efficient strategies for the preservation and distribution of family wealth, offering continuous investment management with a focus on long-term strategies. Areas of service include investment, estate, education, and retirement planning. Barnett & Company, the power of compound returns over time. More information can be found on the web at barnettandcompany.com.